Well, welcome back, everybody. We're continuing this series on Jesus and mental health by taking a look at different setbacks and different struggles that particular groups of people have. And so I'm here sitting down today with Mary, and I'm so grateful that you've joined us, that you've offered your time and expertise. Let's start off. Who are you? Yes. I know you. We go way back.
We go way back.
But not everybody does.
That's right.
So what's your role? And let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm Mary Hulst. I serve as the university pastor at Calvin University. I'm in my 14th year in that particular role.
A couple of years.
Yeah, I've been at it a while.
Yeah, and you have you served a church previous.
I did. This role. Yep, I was a pastor for 8 years. I've been a professor at the seminary, taught preaching.
A lot of young adults. You did teach me preaching.
Yeah, I did my best.
And you were in a church role before that, a church
Yes.
that had a lot of young adults attending it. And so this is a subject that you have close to your heart. Mm-hmm. What are some of the struggles and setbacks that young adults in particular have that you've been seeing?
Yes. Yep, I think the one that gets a lot of chatter right now is the anxiety-depression combo. Mm-hmm. A lot of that can be traced to our use of phones, our use of technology. So your brain actually develops a significant amount between the ages of 18 and 25, almost as much as it does between the ages of 0 and 3.
Really?
Yes. So there's significant brain development that happens during your college years or your early professional years.
Yeah.
And what we've learned about the brain is that it actually needs downtime. It needs to be bored. It needs to let your mind wander, because that's how it heals and how it makes connections.
So like sleeping and taking care of yourself is
big.
Oh,
sleep is big.
Your pastor recommends taking a nap.
Yes, it's so important. Rhythms of sleeping and waking are really important. Times when you don't look at a screen are really important.
And that's that boredom.
That's the boredom.
Like we resist that.
We never let ourselves be bored.
Yeah.
So if you're waiting in line, if you're doing, you're even at a traffic light, like let yourself sit there in the moment.
Yeah.
And let your brain just go. Because your brain needs that.
Remind yourself, this is good for me.
This is really good for me to just be bored for a minute.
Yeah.
And our phones make it so we're never bored, which means our brains never have time to heal and process.
Yeah.
Another real strong recommendation is don't sleep with your phone.
What does that mean? Sleep with it like nearby or sleep in?
It's both.
It's both.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people who have studied brain development and psychology and things like this, they say the best thing is to sleep with your phone in a different room.
Okay.
Like if you're in the bedroom, your phone is in the kitchen. Because what we've learned, particularly with young adults, is that being accessible 24/7 means that if their phone goes off at 2 a.m. and it's a friend who's awake and wants to chat, they'll wake up, they'll chat, and the blue light of their phone makes it much harder to get back to sleep.
Right.
So if your phone is in the kitchen, for example, or if you're in your dorm and you put it in the bathroom, or if you're in a loft and you put it down below so you can't access it, you actually sleep more soundly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And our phones now have options that allow us to put on the do not disturb, put on the sleep.
Use those features.
Those focus features are ways to make your brain healthy.
Yeah, it's good tips. When we start getting out of rhythms, and when the anxiety, when the depression starts to move towards a not just unhealthy, but also I think something might be clinically wrong.
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about what that transition looks like, what you've observed, some of those signs that said, hey, it's time now to talk to somebody.
Yeah. So when you get out of rhythm, those are the things to pay attention to. You're eating too much. You're not eating enough. You're sleeping a lot. You're not sleeping at all. You're never doing your homework. You're playing video games all the time. Like if there are things in your life that have been a little like this and then they're way out of balance, that's something's got to change.
Yep.
And it's not a judgment call. It's not like we're judging you for that. We're saying, know yourself well enough to go, I need to change some things up.
And I'm sure your people around you could also tell you.
Yes.
Right? The simple question, does my life seem out of balance to you?
Right.
In a way. And kind of invite that conversation in.
Yes. So I have a friend who just said October 1, he's like, I got to get off social media. I got to take a month. I just got to do a cleanse.
Yeah.
Because it's getting out of balance.
Yeah.
And I need to take a break.
Yeah.
And I was like, good call.
Do you see a lot of people, we're talking young adults, particular, 18, 22, this is your wheelhouse right now. Do you see a lot of social media cleanse? I just came across one of those today.
Yeah, more and more students are doing it, and
Yeah.
they may do a certain piece of it. There are a lot of people who do it for Lent, like I'm giving up this for Lent, and then they're like, why did I ever do that? But then it sucks you back in.
Yeah.
So what people also don't know about all of our apps is they are designed to make you addicted to them.
Yes.
They're designed for that. That's why Instagram doesn't have a bottom. That's why Facebook doesn't have a bottom. So you can sit there and all of a sudden you're like, I've lost 20 minutes or 2 hours of my life. I'm never going to get it back.
Yeah.
It's designed to make you addicted to it. And so that's why the more we have good limits, boundaries, parameters, the healthier our brains are. I would say another thing about anxiety and depression in the post-high school kind of I don't know what, grown-up-y years, is that particularly in the students I deal with, there's this idea that you're supposed to know what you're doing and you're supposed to have a plan for your life. And if you don't have a plan for your life, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
And that can lead to a lot of depression. And especially like, let's say you go off to college and your roommate has a plan. Your roommate's like, I'm going to study chemistry. I want to become a researcher. I'm going to have summers where I work at the research labs. I love chemistry.
Everything is lined up.
I'd love to do some work, maybe get a PhD.
Yeah.
This is what I'd love to do. And you're like, great. I have no idea. And the other challenge is it's one of the very few seasons in your life when people ask you all the time.
Yeah. Nobody asks us.
No one asks us.
What are you
What are you
thinking about
going to do
doing
in 5 years?
This?
Right?
More of the same.
I guess
Yeah.
this. We like what we do.
Though. Yeah.
And that just creates this anxiety all the time.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're a parent, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt of someone who's a college age student, come up with better questions.
That's good.
Like when they're home for Thanksgiving, say, what's a class you've really enjoyed?
Yeah.
What's the funniest thing that happened this semester?
Yeah.
Did anybody do any good pranks?
Yeah.
Did you go to any sporting events?
It leads to better conversation.
It leads to better
right?
conversations.
Because it's things that you're honestly really interested in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here's what
Fun
to avoid.
stories.
Don't ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or if they've got a major you don't understand, what are you going to do with that? Like, they will be fine. If they graduate from college, they'll get a job, they'll be fine. Don't ask that question. What are you going to do with that? Not helpful. The other question not to ask, are you seeing anybody?
Oh.
You dating anybody? Anybody catch your eye?
Yep.
Because that's another area of a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And if your friends are starting to match up, particularly later in your college life and in your early 20s, and you haven't, that's another area where you feel a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And you may think, I am not worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not enough because no one has found me to be enough to ask me out and date me. And that can create a lot of anxiety. So for those of us who are surrounding these students, these young adults with love, it's like, don't ask about what they're going to be when they grow up, and don't ask if they're dating anybody. Because if they know, they'll tell you. You don't have to ask them. They'll say, I want to let you know I'm dating somebody. And you can go, that's wonderful. Tell me about that person.
Yeah. What do you like about them?
Yeah. What drew you to each other? And I always ask, how do they make you laugh? Right?
That's good.
Because
you draw more of those
you draw
stories.
them out.
You get to understand a little bit more. We're talking about some trigger questions that can put people on their back foot.
Yep.
And honestly, somebody might not want to come home from Thanksgiving if
That's
you
right.
keep on asking all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
That can cause
Then they
more
feel
out.
distant from their family of origin, right? They may not yet be attached to people at school if they're a first or second year student,
Yeah.
right? So
More tension, more anxiety. The cycle keeps going.
exactly.
What are some of the signs when it's time to talk to a professional?
Yeah.
When it's too far out of balance.
Yep.
You and I aren't professional counselors.
Right.
I think one of the things I share with people a lot of times, I get to be on the front lines.
Yep.
A lot of times when people don't know that they need to talk to somebody who's a professional, I hear about it first, and I get to say, Jesus loves you to death and back again to new life.
Amen.
And now it's time to talk to somebody who can help you recover.
Yeah.
What are some of the signs when you make that referral?
Yeah. When I know that it's, so I say, we do the Jesus stuff.
Yeah.
Right? When it's a spiritual based question, when it's I don't have a question about God, like, we'll talk about that. But I think if it's an eating disorder, if there's some self-harm, If I think if there's some deep grief, I'll be like, hey, would you refer a recommendation on campus or off campus?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is if you are a student, the odds are you have free counseling for this season in your life.
So you're talking about Calvin University in particular.
Yep.
You have some counterparts that I'm sure you talk to at other institutions.
Yes.
Is this something that if you're a student at Grand
yes,
Valley?
At Grand Valley
or something?
Yes. The vast majority of schools
Okay.
either have an on-campus counseling department or they have an off-site partner.
Okay, they can make
so they
that
may
recommendation.
outsource or something like that, but that may be covered by your student insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing to know. The other thing is the Counseling and Wellness Center, like at Calvin, we've actually learned we get really good results from group therapy.
Okay.
And so when you go, don't imagine that you are gonna just get one-on-one every week for 9 weeks, and right? Because they may say, actually, we have a group that talks about anxiety.
Yeah.
And we encourage you to go to the group, and you may think, I don't want to go to a group. Let me tell you, the groups are awesome.
Yeah.
They really help people.
I've done some of this work in a group setting as well, in seminary. A recommendation to try that, and it's more suited towards real life.
Yes.
I found, right? Because you don't want to be dependent on that for too long, but it is so helpful to explore these themes and these topics in community with other people.
That's right. And anxiety and depression often lead to isolation. Mm-hmm. And so the best thing to move toward healing is to get out of isolation, get into a group with other people who say, this has been my experience, this is how I'm getting better. Yeah. Right?
How about for the friends, for family, if you have some concerns for a young adult in your life, you don't know what to do because you haven't experienced, that wasn't your journey, but you know something's off.
Something's off.
Those warning lights are going off. How would you encourage those caregivers to intercede? Yep.
I think the first thing is approach your student and say, here's what I'm observing. How do you think about this?
Yep.
Right? So it's not like, well, I see you playing video games all the time and I don't like that.
Gotcha.
It seems to me that you're playing a lot of video games. Is that how you're experiencing it? Are you feeling like you're doing that?
Because they probably
too
know.
much, right? And they could be like, yeah. Like, oh, why do you think that is? Mm-hmm. Right? So take a posture of curiosity and help them and say, do you feel like you could use some help with that? Because, I remember at parent orientation, they talked about this counseling stuff, and I bet someone could just help you. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be the counseling center. It can be like, if you talk to your RA, talk to the person who's on the floor right there.
Sure.
Do you have somebody on your team or who's in your club that you could be like, yeah, I could talk to this person.
Mm-hmm. I always get permission then with somebody afterwards to say, you just shared with me, this is what you're going to do. Do I have your permission to follow up with you?
Yes.
In a week, in 2 weeks?
That is great.
And then I've never had anybody, I don't think, say, no, don't follow up with me. So it's like, wow, you would do that.
Yeah.
And then I make a reminder.
That's right.
To follow
up.
But really, talk to somebody, right? Cast that net as wide as possible. You don't know who's going to be the one that's going to help.
Right.
It's going to say the right thing.
And I know that there are a lot of apps out there that can help. We actually contract with a company called Therapy Assistance Online, TAO. Okay. And so our students can use their school ID and log in, and there's like a chat bot that walks you through things, and then it says, it seems like you're dealing with this. Let's put you in these resources. Okay. So you don't even have to make an appointment.
Yeah.
You can do it in the quiet of your room or in the library or wherever. And
when you're feeling it too.
When you're feeling it.
Right?
It's like, I'm feeling anxiety right now. What do I do? And it may walk you through some breathing exercises or some imagery exercises. So there are some really helpful tools that we all carry right in our pockets that are easily accessible.
Yeah. On the note about resources, I did want to highlight encounterchurch.org/help. We've got a list of resources. I love what you shared about what your institution does. Encounter, as a reminder, we cover 75% of the first 6 sessions with a Christian counselor. And we've got a ton of recommendations on the website, more coming all the time. And really we do that just to lower the barrier of entry so that you can get in and so that you can ask for that help and be resourced. And we'd love to talk more about that further. Final question. I would love for you to share with somebody right now who's going through something, and I don't even know what that is in particular, but what is your hope for them?
Yeah, my hope for you is to know that it doesn't always stay like this. It gets better. You have survived every tough day you've ever had, and you can survive every tough day you're gonna have. You got people, you got friends, you've got a pastor, you got me if you want me. So you can do this. You can get help, and you can get better.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for being
Dirk.
here and
It was
making the
delightful.
time.
Yeah, you
Appreciate
bet.
it.